I'm Commander Shepard, and the Unnamed Games podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Shepard out.
Good evening, people of the internet. As you can see, I am not your regular host. He's taken a weekend off. He said his jobs list on his OnlyFans webpage was getting really long, and he had some personal requests and stuff. And he bought some new mankinis to test out. So Craig is taking the week off, and I am taking the host chair.
Getting his haircut. He's getting his haircut.
Yeah, that's right. He's getting his haircut. With me are the usual other two reprobates. They're just on the side over here at the moment. Let's bring them into focus so you can see them. So, Alan, Mr. Longfangs Howlett, how are you this evening?
Well, I'm all right, actually. I'm not so bad. I mean, obviously, I wasn't here last week, so I had a week off, but I also had the whole week off. So I'm quite rested, but slightly depressed tonight because I only have one more day before I have to go back to work. So, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag, really, but I'm very happy to be here.
That is unfortunate. One day before you're back to work.
I know.
You want to make the most of the party this evening, then, eh? Chris, how are we doing? Talk to me about stuff.
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. It's it's been I too have had a week off, but not because I have a week off, just because I've got no job because I'm a bum. so
is it a week off, or is it just time allocated to gaming?
I'm using it constructively by playing a lot of video games. I'll have you know that this is it's time well spent. I've not wasted it. I've done the job looking thing, and then oh look, I still haven't got a job. Guess I better play some video games.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's only Monday. I'll play some video games.
Yeah. Good old COVID. So hopefully, anyway, the job seems to be, job front seems to be illuminating and more jobs becoming available. So hopefully, in the near future, there'll be more job and less video games. Sadly.
Well, we're all rooting for you on that one. So, on this week's podcast, I have prepared a fiesta of exciting things to talk about. We're going to talk about the game, the only game that we need to talk about this week. We're going to talk about...
What game is that, Chris? Chris has given off some weird sort of vibes here. He's kind of telling us what the game is, but without actually telling us. I don't know. I'm getting this message.
Mass Effect Edition.
There we go. He said it. He couldn't wait. He said it. So yes, we're going to talk about the Mass Effect Legend. Wait for it.
Dairy
Edition.
It's like you're bad comedy double act going on here.
I mean, bad. How rude.
Yeah. Magnificent
comedians.
Yes, we will talk about the Mass Effect game. We are going to talk about Xbox's plan to scarper the scalpers. We're going to talk about the Coalition and their plan to scarper people's plans to just play with Xbox players. We're going to kick the tires of Stadia once again, because we love to do that, and we love to kick them, more specifically. We're going to talk about some Fable news. We're going to have a pun to what Xbox's new IP might be, and we've got a little bit of a discussion. And then, God willing and time willing, there is a themed quiz at the end as well. No guess as to what that is. It could be anything, but Chris is appropriately dressed. Let's just say that. So
yeah, it's basically.
I won't be getting any points in that quiz then.
But
the good news is it's multiple choice.
And I was going to say, I bet you
8 of the 10 questions.
Knowing Phil, he's gone to the most random, like asinine stuff he can find in the Mass Effect universe and gone, right, here we go.
What underpants does Shepard wear on a Wednesday?
And which of his favourite stores on the Citadel did he buy them from? So, yes, that is a lovely segue. So, let's talk about what we've played this week before we go too far ahead. Alan, you've had a week off. How's it been? What have you done?
Well, I mean, it's been 2 weeks, as I said, so there's a lot to fill in, but I'm not going to go over everything because, we'll be here all night. I'm a busy man. One thing I did want to bring up, I go things I've watched first. Obviously, as I said last time I was on, it's the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I've been watching The Bad Batch on Disney Plus, which is the new Star Wars animated series.
That looks good.
I haven't watched this week's episode, but I've watched the first two. The first episode is hugely long. It's like an hour and 15 minutes long pilot. It's pretty impressive. It's like a feature film. And then the next episode's only about 30 minutes. And I think that's going to be the sort of the normal length.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Did that with the Clone Wars as well. Like they launched it with the movie, and then they just went straight into like 30-minute episodes. I'm
glad you mentioned that because that's what I was going to say. Clone Wars, I never actually got around to watching. I've never watched it. I've heard pretty good things, especially about the later series. About the quality of it and the story.
Season 4 onwards, it gets really good.
It's never bad. I've never actually. Clear. I think it's never bad, that show. It just gets significantly better later on.
Yeah. But I've never watched it, so I thought, okay, I'll jump in, see what this is all about. Bad Batch, and I have to be honest, I'm really, really loving it. I think it's fantastic. It's great written. It's set after the events of basically Order 66, Revenge of the Sith. And basically it's set around a group of clones who are what they call mutated genome clones. So they're not like your standard red clones. There's like 4 or 5 of them that are some just slightly different. The same guy voices them all, but they all have like a different personality. You've got your big muscly one, your sniper who's a little bit a bit mean, your leader, and it's kind of like you've got these very very sort of like personalities that you would expect to see, but very different. And it's done really, really well, and I'm really loving it. So I've been watching that. Got to watch this week's episode. I've also been on a bit of a movie binge, which has been spurred on by Craig, who was talking about his Avengers or Marvel Universe binge the other week. So I decided to watch all the Avengers movies, but the thing is, because of the way the whole universe is tied in, it's really difficult to just watch like the 4 Avengers movies because there's so many bits tied, but it's all interconnected. So I also ended up watching Civil War, which, let's be honest, Captain America Civil War, it's an Avengers movie and everything but name anyway. It has almost the entire cast of the Avengers in it anyway, and it's not always focused on Captain America, so it is really an Avengers movie. Captain Marvel, which I thought was needed to know the backstory there. Doctor Strange, Ant-Man and the Wasp are just some of the other ones I've watched, and I've actually watched Infinity War, and then I've got to watch Endgame. I watched Captain Marvel a bit earlier. I probably should have watched that after Infinity War, but I didn't really look at the running order. But absolutely loving it. Those films are the kind of films which I think you can put on any time, and they're just fun. They're just absolute turn your brain off. Great fun. Yeah. They're not breaking the mold here. They're doing it's action movies, but with superheroes. And there's the Hulk, and all the characters because you've been watching them for 10 years, and it just feels safe and home.
Yeah,
Wheaton's
got that. He's got that formula down, hasn't he? That very glossy,
definitely
happy superhero formula. He's got it to a T for Marvel, hasn't he?
Let's not talk about him.
Yeah, I know he's not your favourite. Not your favourite.
No, it's not even that, mate. Just everything else about the man. Let's just not talk about him.
Well, yeah. I mean, what you can believe in the news, and I don't like to comment on stuff like that. I don't know because it's like. But anyway, moving on from that, you can definitely see the difference, I think, between Infinity War and like Ultron and Assembled, which is not directed by Whedon, and I think there's a distinct difference, and it feels a little bit more jarring. But to be fair, Infinity War is a lot more expansive than the first two. The first two really focus on those primary 6 members of the Avengers, whereas Infinity War and Endgame are focusing on all of the outside influences, all the way from Black Panther to Captain Marvel to the galaxies of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and just everybody is thrown into the mix, and trying to get all of those stories interconnected and it is a massive achievement, and for the most part I think they really pull it off in Infinity War. Looking forward to watching Endgame tomorrow, so really looking forward to that. Games wise, I have, of course, been playing a little game called Mass Effect, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that after this, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but I know I haven't played as much as the rest of you guys, and the reason behind that is because I've found my next obsession, and it's a new game. It's a new game. It's not going to be around for a long time, I have to say, but it is, I think, incredibly good value for money and for the kind of game that I enjoy, which is, I was looking for a new survival game. Ark, Terraria isn't so much a survival game, although there is definitely their aspect. It's more of an adventure game, I think. But then you look at like arc, and it's definitely a survival game with dinosaurs. And I love that kind of game in general. The whole, knock down a tree and get that stuff. Apart from Rust, we won't go into Rust. I've already mentioned Rust. I hate Rust. Rust sucks. But anyway, sorry to the makers of Rust. It's not so much the game that sucks; it's the community. Bunch of a-holes, can't stand. You go on there, people kill you because you're holding a rock. I mean, serious.
They're making bank. They don't care if you hate it because
they don't care. They make lots of people do enjoy it, but I just, if I had to wake up one more time staring at the goddamn beach after spending hours trying to build a house that nobody could break into while I wasn't online, I couldn't do it. My sanity I had to stop. Absolutely hate the game myself personally, but this game, moving on, it is stranded deep. And it's not a AAA title. But it is a survival game, and you basically wash up on a beach. And it's not trying to be Ark. There's no dinosaurs. It's literally just surviving. There are some giant crabs, occasional really upset hog that likes to headbutt you. Doesn't do that much damage, but you can spear it in the face until it's dead and then eat it. And sharks, mostly. Sharks are probably the most dangerous thing. Apart from there, I think there are 2 or 3 bosses. I haven't encountered them yet. There's a giant squid and a giant megalodon. That's a bit of a giant megalodon. Of course, it's giant. It's a freaking megalodon. You don't.
You could have a giant megalodon. Surely that would just be like really, really big.
Exactly. The size of a planet megalodon. No, it's a megalodon. It's a giant shark.
It's got mega in the name. Yeah,
the
clue is in the name.
I haven't seen either of those, but I have seen plenty of those, and it's kind of based on this like grid, and it populates like this grid with 25 by 5 by 5 grid, 25, and then puts islands in that are just automatically generated, and then you drop in, and then you have to survive, and you have to find certain parts to basically build a plane eventually and escape. I think, because I just watched the videos, I'm nowhere that near in, but it's perfect for me. I mean, it cost me £17 whole, £16.74 to be precise.
Wow.
And I've been playing it solidly all week. I've put in probably a good 40 to 60 hours already, mostly because I spent most of my time just chopping down freaking trees, to be honest. I decided I was going to build a big house, so I did, and that's the stuff. And it's still the same progression. The only thing I would say about it is that you can tell that it's £17 and not £30 or £40, because the level of depth to it, it's like once I've finished playing through and I've probably escaped this first time, it's highly unlikely I'll do it again. And I think it's a real shame, because there's a lot of love and attention been put into it. And it is I don't know how long it's been on the console, but the game's actually been around for nearly 5 years, I think, if not more, on the PC. And it seems like they've a couple of updates here or there, but mostly it doesn't seem to be getting an awful lot of support now. And it seems a bit of a shame, because it just off the top of my head, I can think of things that they could add to it, underwater caves and stuff like that they could perhaps, expand it and perhaps make bigger islands and maybe even make it multiplayer in the end. But it doesn't seem to be like they're pushing that agenda. Maybe I'm wrong. But
maybe there's a new and shiny version coming out that's going to have all of those things.
Maybe, and I'll be one of the first people in the queue if that's the case, because I'm very impressed with what they've done so far with this one. And for £17, I really can't scoff. I've definitely got value for money, and I'll probably still be playing it for the next couple of weeks, at least for the next week. Really loving it, really enjoying it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing mostly.
Cool, thanks, Alan. Appreciate that. Sounds like you've had a solid week. Well, 2 weeks technically, since we haven't seen you for a week of gaming.
Yeah,
Chris, talk to me. How's it going? What have you been playing?
Well, I've had a little bit of time on Mass Effect, obviously. Again, we'll talk about it in a bit. I have been playing a bit more Outriders with friends, just killing some time in expeditions. That's got really stale pretty quickly now, to be fair. It's a game that I can't feel it's a wasted opportunity by the developers. Like, we were promised this expansive end game, we get time trials. And it's just time trials, nothing else. And the biggest problem with that is it guides you into one type of build and one type of build only. It's just what does the most damage the fastest, because you need to kill things quicker than anything else. So it became a bit like, all right, so there's one meta and everyone needs to run that, and that's the end of it, and cool, whatever. And it's got a horrific drop rate on legendary items. It's so tedious sometimes. So yeah, that's dying. So I probably won't talk about Outriders much anymore.
I think I got to the end game and I did like one mission with Craig, and then we were like, this is great. Yeah. What other games were coming out?
Yeah, it's frustrating, because you put if you put the time in to get to the Eye of the Storm, which is the big thing, and I haven't finished Eye of the Storm, to be honest. I'll probably just get that done, and that'll probably be me off on the game, because I've got that far, I might as well finish it. Don't leave it like Titanfall. because the likelihood of me ever coming back to it is nil, unlike Titanfall. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like that, we tried that mission, and you need to be proper on point with your build. But it's just like we were talking about last night playing, and it just is like a game where they've decided we haven't got good enemy mechanics. We'll just swarm you with enemies. That's the only thing it can do, and it gets a bit tedious. And there are bugs in it, which have made more bugs, and it's just anyway, enough Outriders. Been watching a few movies, watching some TV. I watched all of the new Netflix series Jupiter's Legacy, superhero show. Quite different to anything like it's not. So I saw a lot of people comparing it to Invincible and some other superhero shows. And I think that's really unfair because it's definitely not trying to be like Invincible. It's not even the same kind of show. It's the much more philosophical.
It likes to walk the moral line, doesn't it? About
it's asking more questions about superheroes and just being about superheroes. And I think there's some really great moments in the show. It's quite slow. And if you just no real spoilers, it's set in 2 time frames. You've got the Depression era America, and you've got modern day. And it sort of, shows you how they got their powers in the past and so on forth. And that story is quite interesting, how they got their powers. It's probably the most interesting part of the show. But as in the modern age, there's an ongoing thread about superhero morality and, not killing and things like this. If I had to sort of compare it to like most superhero stuff, I would say it's much more in the Batman v Superman camp of how they tell a superhero story than it is to the Marvel camp. It's a much darker story in terms of tone. Not necessarily it's not like super violent in terms of dark, but it's got a lot of weight in it in terms of that, and that can probably drag some people down on it. So I don't think it's going to be for everyone. In fact, I think it has already been a bit trash because of that. I really enjoyed it because it offered me something different. Like I thoroughly enjoyed Invincible, but if I'd have just got Invincible, live action, I'd have been like, well, I could just watch Invincible over here.
Yeah,
I don't want the same thing twice. Yeah, so I've quite enjoyed it. I think some of the actors are great in it. The concept's very good, actually. I won't say any spoilers or anything, but it's certainly worth a watch. It's not the best TV show I've ever seen, but it's certainly worth a bit of your time. And then in the lull of waiting for the Legendary Edition to drop, I was like, well, I want to play some games. And I was flicking through my Xbox Dash, and a little advert popped up, and I was like, do you know what? I don't know why, but I want to play that game. And it was a Game Pass game, and it's a game called Rain on Your Parade. Now, it is a game where you play as a cloud.
Okay, so it's a very literal named game. Then.
And you literally rain on things and put snow on things and thunderclaps. And it's very comic-y and very, very basic and very indie and very thing. But it's also quite fun because it's very tongue-in-cheek. It knows what it is. It knows it's very basic, very simple. And it has a lot of fun with that. And it's really silly, really basic. It's more in line with a mobile game. But, I've had a bit of a laugh playing it. It's been good fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'd recommend, if you want a bit of a time killer, just a bit of fun, very light-hearted entertainment, Rain on Your Parade. It's a free download on Game Pass. It's a tiny game. It's a good laugh. It's a good laugh, Like one of the missions is just rain on the weatherman all the way to his job. You just have to keep a cloud on him and rain all the way as he goes to his job. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And how they made it more interesting is as the cloud, you can suck up different liquids to pour. So one thing you can do is you can suck up petrol or tar. And if you go to a fire and then sprinkle that from the fire, it'll trail the fire to wherever you need to blow things up or set things off. There was one mission where I had to. It's quite fun. Yeah, it's like mini puzzles and stuff. They're not super complicated. Anyone could play it. It's genuine. It's an all ages game. There's another one where it's all done in very, very cartoony graphics as well. So the next one sounds really but it's not. You raise an army of the dead by getting some toxic waste and sprinkle it on graves, and then like zombies pop up and follow you around, and they're like your minions. And you have to take them through the level, which is quite fun. So it's a fun little game. It's a bit of a laugh. I'd recommend it. And then, like I say, Mass Effect's come along, and I've had a good blast on Mass Effect. I'm not far into it. Well, I'm further than Alan is, I'm sure. But for the time I've put in, I'm not very far from anyone. Mainly because, like a sucker for punishment and being a bit of a cocksure idiot, I went, hey, there's an achievement for completing it on Insanity. That's what I'm doing. And so I've put all the combat on Insanity, and it is quite tough. And I've remembered as I've gone partly through it.
Shocker.
Yeah. Well, it's mainly quite tough because the combat systems are a bit crap, which we'll come on to in a minute. I don't want to go too far into that. But I'd forgotten that the way you're really supposed to do your insane run in Mass Effect is play it on normal first. And as you go through the campaign, you accumulate credits and gear and all that. And then when you start again, with the same character. You keep all that gear and credits, or you at least keep the credits, and you go in and go, I got money, and you can buy all the really good gear right off the bat. So when you first get into combat, you're not rocking like level 1 gear going, look at me, I've got paper armor. You can't tank. So basically, I made it overly difficult for myself. But I'm still enjoying it. But it is, there've been a couple of points where I've been like, in a minute, this controller's going through that TV. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Lovely. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. So for me, it's been another busy week for work. So I've played some more Tales of Berseria while I was waiting for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I also watched Jupiter's Legacy as well. Mm-hmm. Jupiter's Legacy. And I observed kind of the same thing as you. It was a lot more, it was more of a thought experiment than most of those kind of superhero movies. Like, there was a few bits of action, but they didn't really focus on the action. They focused on the darker side. I particularly enjoyed, like, right at the end when his son does the thing to the bad boy.
Spoilers.
And that's all I'm going to say. I don't want any spoilers in there, but I was like, ooh.
It does have a very good moral question running through the show, and it's a very interesting take on it. I liked it anyway.
Yes, that was generally my thoughts. And then, of course, I went straight into the Legendary Edition. I've put about 12, maybe 13 hours in. I had Friday off, so I wasn't going anywhere on Friday. And that actually segues beautifully into, let's have a little chat about the Legendary Edition, shall we? Because I kind of want to know where you guys are at and what you think. So let's go with Alan first, because he's our less enthusiast, shall we say.
He's basically our newbie, isn't he?
I mean, you say less enthusiast. I mean, at the end of the day, I love a good RPG, and it's Dragon Age, but in space, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, it's the same game. And I love Star Trek and Star Wars, so it kind of is up my alley. The only reason that I haven't played all of them is because I just kind of fell out and then never got back into it when it was originally out. But I did play number 1, and I played it through twice to get 2 different endings back in the day, but never finished number 2. First impressions, I'd have to say the rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia cards are very heavy with this one.
Yes. So that's very fair.
Never. Not at all.
I think that is a fair assumption, but that doesn't mean to say that it does. They haven't made some really good improvements. I mean, graphically, it's still, yes, in places it's very, very pretty, but the character models and animations are still not great. They're okay, and they've obviously been improved, but compared to what we now see these days, it's still, you can still see it's an old game with old animations and stuff like that, and the way the mouths move, I think we can actually see it on screen now. But all of that aside, that doesn't matter, because I've always been one of those people that's been like, well, it's not about the graphics. For me, it's about the gameplay and how much fun I get out of it. I mean, Chris is just talking about playing a game where he's a cloud. I'm sure that it was 4K ray tracing, Ultra HD with that game. But
of course, absolutely,
exactly. I love to see a very pretty game. I really, really do. I mean, I love to see a Witcher on max performance when it came out, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I love to see some of the new games come out and they're just like you turn it on and the graphics just like, oh wow, that is just amazing. But if there's no gameplay there, then it's pointless. And one of the things I always enjoyed about Mass Effect was the story, and that hasn't changed as far as I can tell. It still seems to be exactly the same story, albeit I'm only a couple of hours in. A problem is, for me, is that my experience wasn't great. The first mission, literally the first mission where you go to Eden Prime and you touch down and you fight the Geth all the way to the train station, basically, to get onto the train. I encountered 2 bugs in that first mission. And they were both bad bugs, and they really, really ruined my experience. And I have to say, I do not recall there ever being any bugs with the first game at all, ever.
There are, but
none.
They're certainly the one.
Any.
One you've seen is completely new to me, but there's definitely some that are definitely there.
I mean, the first one, the bugs you encountered.
So the first one was I was fighting when you're fighting along with the Geth hiding behind the chairs on this platform and you're working towards the train. All of a sudden, the sound on everything except the music just disappeared.
Were you playing with headphones?
No.
Okay, because there is an issue
I
with
deliberately,
headphones that we're
I know,
aware
and I read about that, so I deliberately didn't play with headphones. I would normally, with a game that's got this big grand, all the music and playing and the scenes and everything, I usually would play with headphones because I'd want that, I'd want to be in the action and really listening to it with my new fantastic Microsoft headphones. But I didn't on this occasion because I'd read the blurb about it there being some issues. So I thought I don't want to complicate the issue. I will just play through the TV. And just in the middle of this firefight, all of a sudden, every other piece of audio just disappeared apart from the music, and I'm firing and I'm just like, you can't hear anything, and it's really, really disconcerting. I mean, again, it's not game breaking, but it's really weird when you're playing and your guns aren't making a noise or you can't hear them shooting at you. It's amazing. You don't really think about it on a day-to-day basis how much audio impacts how you play and how much you enjoy what you play, because if it's not there, there's nothing. It's soulless.
Yeah, it creates the atmosphere, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So I'm fighting my way down, and then I'm thinking, I'm going to have to start the whole blooming mission again. If this doesn't kick back in, I'm going to. And I've literally fought my way all the way to the end. So I really don't want to have to do the first mission again if I don't, start from the beginning again. But just as I got to the end of the platform and killed the last Geth, it came back on again, and I was like, okay. And then I didn't experience it again. So it was just that particular section. It just no sound. So
I have to say, I was going to say, I actually wanted to talk to you about this. I know we talked about it. I actually, on hindsight, have had that bug happen on the 360. So I think that's a legacy bug, but it's quite a rare one. But the other one you've seen, that I have no idea about, mate.
So the other one, it's comic. It would be comical.
It's hilarious to watch
with a video, but it is not hilarious to play. Okay, so Ashley, and we know all how everybody loves Ashley. I don't mind her; she's all right. But everybody hates Ashley, especially Chris. And it's like my wife hates Ashley as well. She's played Mass Effect. She's like, in the scene where you get to kill her off, she's like, yeah, Ashley, you're going down.
Spoilers.
Anyway, the fact of the matter is,
statute of limitations is up on that one, mate.
Yeah, I think so. You literally walk around a corner, and all of a sudden, she's popping up inside of my head, and it's like she's stuck to my right foot. So, and I can't direct her. So, like Caden, I can use the whole go over here, but Ashley, I can't. So she's literally stuck to my right hand side. So every time I move a bit to the right, she's bobbing up and down in front of my face, and I can't see where I'm going. And I'm trying to fire, and it won't let me fire because Ashley is in front of me, and she's like bobbing. And it's hilarious. Like I said, it really ruined my experience. We had the whole thing where I had to disarm the 4 bombs and kill the big squad of Geth that were there, and I was hating it. I was like, get out of the. I cannot complete this mission, and I did get it done eventually. But and after that, I was a bit like, well, actually, I'm going to go away and play something else for a while, and I haven't actually gone back, and I will. But it was not a pleasant experience. I'm actually at the Citadel, and I've wandered around there, but I haven't gone and done any more missions. I've just been wandering around talking to people. But it was kind of like, that was my first mission, and that was the experience. 2 major bugs in the first mission was not a good experience for me, sadly. But overall, I'm not dismissing the game just because of that. It's just a shame. It's a real shame that was my experience. But I fully intend, as I said before, and I'll keep everybody updated, I fully intend to play it all the way through. I am obsessed at the moment with catching crabs and hitting trees and killing sharks with scrambled meat. But when that obsession has passed by, I'll be diving headlong first into Mass Effect. But that was my experience in the first couple of days.
Mate, I feel for you, genuinely, mate, because like it's. I totally get it, because if you have one of those bad experiences off the bat, especially that early in it, it can be a real off-putting thing. And I'm actually like, my first impressions of the Legendary Edition were frustrating as well because of the fact that the headphone glitch existed. So I had it all pre-installed. I stayed up till midnight. I was going to start it. Oh, here we go. I stay up till midnight. I never go to bed before about 2 in the morning at the minute anyway, because of like not needing to get up for anything. But anyway,
of not having a job.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There are other downsides we don't necessarily need to talk about, but So anyway, I fired it up, and I got to the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, accepted the terms and conditions, push any button to start, pushed it, crashed to dash, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I went around that like 5, maybe 6 times.
Yeah, I got to about 4. I think it was the 4th one. I went right. Got on the Google machine and I Googled it, and it was like a few articles saying there's a bug in Mass Effect Legendary Edition where if you've got any extra peripherals like wireless headphones, because they're not a common accessory to use while gaming, it will crash the game straight to dash. And I was like, are you having a laugh? So like initially after that, I was like, well done EA, well done BioWare. What a way to drop the ball as an intro to this. Like you've put it out there. We fire it up and we can't even start the game. You can work around it by simply just having your headphones off when you sign in. As soon as you push the A button to log into the game, you can turn your headphones back on and it's fine. But it's just like, how can you... It raises questions about playtesting, right? It does raise questions about playtesting. I'm not saying that it's the playtester's fault. I'm just saying, did someone playtest this at any point? Did BioWare just throw it out? I don't know what's happened. But yeah,
I've said this about the games before then. There are some bugs where you just think, how could you not have seen this? You can explain away some things with the, obviously the much larger player base for an online game and stuff like that. But bugs like this, you're like, how can nobody have noticed through what should be an extensive playtesting?
Exactly that, mate. I think we've had it with Cyberpunk. There have been bugs where you're like, how did you not spot this? There have been bugs with Outriders where you're like, how did you not spot this? And there have been bugs with other games as well, but they're just the two that spring instantly to mind at the minute. Yeah. But it was like, come on. And so I got into my play eventually and I started. And I'm kind of in this weird place of it. I love Mass Effect. You can see I'm just like daubed out in Mass Effect gear. I have Mass Effect tattoos. And I think I'm in a position where... and I've got Mass Effect socks. I do have Mass Effect socks. I've got 2 pairs of Mass Effect socks, but no Mass Effect underpants.
Guess we might to get Ratley for Christmas then.
Yep. If you can get me some Mass Effect underpants, I'm all down for Mass Effect underpants. That's all I'm saying. but I'm
concerned you'll turn up just wearing those, though.
You know it. Sexy times. But the problem I've got is this: that this is a prime opportunity because I've always said Mass Effect is one of my. It's one of my favorite games. Mass Effect series is my favorite series of games ever. I'd probably say Mass Effect 2 is my favorite because it's the most sort of balanced of the whole lot and it tells the best story with the most fun gameplay, engagement, etc. But Mass Effect 1, the problem with Mass Effect 1 has always been Mass Effect 1 gets in the way of Mass Effect 1 in that the systems are very clunky. There's a lot of like little bugs here and there. And I thought that it was a prime time for BioWare to do a little bit of work and maybe give us combat. They were like, we tweaked the combat to make it more like Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. It's like, no, you haven't. What you've done is you've toned down the class requirements on the guns, so all guns are usable off the bat, and you've taken away some of the class requirements of other guns. It doesn't play like Mass Effect 2 or 3 in combat. It plays like Mass Effect 1 in combat. So the combat's still janky and a bit crap, which is a real shame because this is a prime opportunity for you to do something about that and make the game more connected to the whole trilogy and make the game more fun to play. They said we've tweaked the Mako control, so the Mako's more controllable. Yes, it is.
We've given you the same Jane Shepherd.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's really good because Fem Shep was really under sort of.
But in the scheme of things, I think I would have preferred a big focus on the combat more than importing the Jane.
This leads me to my point. Available. This leads me to my point of it's lazy in terms of a collected legendary edition. I think it looks very pretty at points, and there's some very cool stuff they've done with the graphics, and I'm very happy that whilst, yes, the character models are very janky, like you say, Alan, like there's some very like lips going on, it doesn't really have that movement, which improves in 2 and 3 again. It's nice to see them do it, but when you look back at all what they've promised they're going to do, like it's all done with AI upscaling, all these new textures, like you've basically just run it for an AI upscaler. You've changed the HUD a little bit and you've changed and removed a few of these bits and pieces, but you've done no real substantive work, it feels like, on the game. And that's disappointing for me. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's bad and I'm not saying don't play it. I would actually encourage you, regardless of the fact it's got janky and a bit crap combat, to stick with Mass Effect because honestly, the story is just phenomenal. And it only gets better into 2. And 3, whilst it has the controversial engine, is just until the ending is literally a perfect game. It's so good. It brought me to tears on 3 occasions in that game. Like it's and it's stunningly good. But that can't disguise the fact that this edition has problems. And like Alan says, there's bugs. And I had a bug, which I know is a bug from the 360, which still persists. Which is I was on the Mars mission, the Moon mission, the Rogue VI, and one of my squad mates, Rex, was knocked out while he was against a wall, and so he fell through the wall when he got knocked out. And then when I res him using Unity, he was on the other side of the wall, and that's where he stayed. And there was no way to get him out of that other side of the wall. But this is where it gets really cool. If I left the bunker, He wasn't there. Got into the Mako, and then got out of the Mako. He was back. Went back into the bunker. He was stuck in the wall again. It's like, so the only way to get him out of the wall was to deliberately kill myself. And he came back.
Reload.
I literally had to complete that bunker, move to the next bunker, die, and then of course the game goes, "Oh no! You have to do the whole mission again, not just this bunker. You got to do the first bunker again, and then come back." And I was like, and given what I've said, insanity combat with that, I was a bit like, "You can go yourself," you know. it was a moment where I got very frustrated, and I'm so annoyed with BioWare for being lazy with this. They had the opportunity, in my opinion, to just sharpen up Mass Effect, bring it forward, make it feel a bit more modern. It didn't need to be like revolutionized. It just had to be this is a lazy upgrade. That's the way I see it at the minute. It's a very lazy upgrade. The AI upscaling is great. It does look good. It plays like Mass Effect's always played. So
I can't disagree with you, Chris, to be honest. I mean, as I said, it definitely looks nice in the textures of the actual environments, but and the game hasn't been changed, and the combat hasn't been changed. So what have they changed exactly?
They did say specifically, they said specifically they weren't going to do any more work than just tweaks, because they said it will be too much work to update it into a newer engine.
This is the problem, isn't it?
I want to pay for a remaster. I want a remake of that's what I want. When it came out Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I'm thinking, wow, you're bringing it up into 2021. It's going to be a game for this generation as well, because they deserve it. And it's not. It's the same game with a bit of spit and polish.
Do you know what's disheartening about this? And this is where where I'm going to get to. This. They kept saying about how the PC modding community was their go-to. Like they saw what the PC modding community was doing with it, and were like, we want to make that thing. Now, the PC modding community has done basically everything they've done in the Legendary Edition for years, and it was free. The PC modding community has also improved combat via mods, right? If the modding community can do this and make it better, you're BioWare, you're EA, you've got the resources. Do it, for God's sake.
I mean, I totally agree with you again, Chris. I say, again, Mass Effect, even with the original version, is a fantastic game and should be played, if only for the story to lead up to 2 and 3. But at the moment, from what I'm looking at, it seems more like a cash grab than an opportunity to improve a game that was already really good.
Yeah. And I want to be really, really clear here, and I want to be just really crystal clear. And I'm saying this, and I sound like I'm being really negative, right? And I am. Which is not what I wanted to be about Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I am saying this because these are my favorite games ever, and you've wasted an opportunity to bring in more people to this wonderful franchise, reinvigorate this franchise, and give it more. Now, don't get me wrong. I also wanted it to be a legacy edition available. So I wanted you to do exactly what you've done, but I wanted to have a better version as well, a more modern playing version, a slicker version. So it's a really, really tough call for me. But at the minute, I'm kind of middling on the Mass Effect remaster, which is, I mean, I'm gonna play it and I will love it and it's gonna be great. I mean, the thing that I will say is this: like, going back to Mass Effect, I never played Mass Effect for the combat. And if you play Mass Effect for the combat, you're playing the wrong game. It's not a shooter. It's an RPG. And the being back on the Normandy and talking with these characters and realizing how good these characters are that is exactly why I wanted to play Mass Effect again. And so regardless of all the bad stuff I've said, I will say this: I've spent a few hours talking to crew members. I've done a couple of missions, and I love the way Mass Effect generates missions to you. Like, you'll randomly pick them up from conversations or from the things you hear in the lifts, and I love the way you'll like, I arrived at a planet and I didn't really remember what planet it was. I just dropped into a planet and I went to this fort that was there, and Rex went, "Oh, I know who runs this place." And I was like, "Oh, this is Rex's like armor mission." And normally I would have picked that up from Rex chatting to him on the Normandy, and he said, "Oh, this guy's got my family armor. We need to go get it." But because I got there first, Rex just chimes in going, this dude's a bad dude and he's got my stuff. And we're going, right, let's go get it then, Rex, you know? Yeah. So I love the way that it doesn't force you to discover the mission that way. It does that. So there's so many things to love about Mass Effect in the way it plays. And if you've never played it, you're doing yourself a disservice as a gamer to not spend time in Mass Effect. The characters alone are worth it. And whether they bring out the worst in you or the best in you, like I had 2 conversations with Ashley and I was like, I really want to set fire to her. You know, like she says some stuff, and I was like,
What is it about Ashley? What I don't mind her.
Well,
She's all right.
Have a few conversations with her, mate.
I have. She's all right.
Yeah, well, once you get so she's all right until you get onto the Normandy, and then some of the stuff she starts saying on the Normandy, like that's a bit. Oh, I don't really like the way you're. So
once they start trying to do the character,
I better make sure I listen to it before I start getting an affiliation.
Yeah.
Towards
So basically, I said it to someone earlier. I said Ashley is the perfect representation of that safe middle America that at first glance seems quite lovely and quite nice, and you're like, I quite like this, and then in comes the casual racism, and then in comes the actual racism, and then in comes the God Squadness. Now, I've got nothing against religion, but there's a way it's delivered. And Ashley is just like, she's middle America. And I'm just like, ooh, sorry to any middle America listeners, but like, it's all the things where she's so innocent until like, all of a sudden like the nastiness starts creeping in. And you're just like, you're not really a very nice person, are you? You know, I quite liked you. And then there's something she can do later on, which I won't spoil because it's such a great moment if you don't know what happens. But there is something she can do where when I found that out, I was like, don't care. From now on, you are nothing to me. You are the lowest of the low. You are pond scum, and I will leave you to whatever fate that may be. I've no interest in connecting with you.
I just think the main thing here for me is that it's such a missed opportunity.
Yes, 100%.
I think they could have, if they put the time and the effort in, as I said, they could have produced a Mass Effect. And I haven't played number 2 or 3 yet, but from what I have played, it just feels like there was minimal effort put into it. No matter what,
minimal effort, maximum return.
It doesn't look like something that it doesn't look. When you look at Resident Evil 2 remake, and I haven't played number 3, so I can't comment on it. You can see it's a remake. They've taken the source material and they've taken the original game and they've tried to emulate as much as possible, but they've made a game that is brought up to the current generation. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is not. It is Mass Effect from back in the day
with mods
with a few extra shiny surfaces. That's what all it is.
So, question for you then: given the choice, do you want the original Mass Effect remastered like Resident Evil 2, or do you want a new Mass Effect game? Completely new story.
I want a new Mass Effect game, but I would have liked if I would have liked them to go.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I know
that was one of the things they said. They said we can either remaster the original Mass Effect as a new game, but it's time, resources, money. It's sold as a premium game, or we do a new game. And they're doing the new game though.
I don't see why it's a choice. Like I know that
it's all about the time frame and the money on return, isn't it? And
it's all about EA basically going, we don't want to spend any more money on it. We'll go do a cash grab, is what it is, and that's the sad fact of the matter is
that goes back to my whole cash back, the legendary edition. If it's not a question of having to choose, all of us are already saying if they remade Mass Effect, the original game, as they did with Resident Evil 2, with whole new, everything completely brand new, but the same game. Then I would buy it. I'd pay 40, 50, 60 quid for it. Because 100%. That's what it should have been, in my 100%. Opinion.
I would have bought one game.
I also want a new Mass Effect game. Please give me both. I want both. Thank you very much.
On that point, Phil, and I'm not going to labour this. We don't want to go on too much longer. We've already spoken way too much on this.
Short now.
So the point is this: that right there of saying, well, we can either do this or this, is properly them emotionally blackmailing fans. They're like, well, if you don't want a legendary edition where we give you nicer graphics, you just don't get it at all, and we won't make another one. Tough. It's like it's proper childish like thing. It's like, look, you could have sold me Mass Effect 1 Legendary Edition for 60 quid with improved combat graphics, etc., and spent some time on it and I'd have paid for it. Then you could have sold me Mass Effect 2 for 60 quid Legendary Edition, and then Mass Effect 3. To tell me that you couldn't do that for financial implications is nonsense. You could have, if they'd have taken the time and the love it deserves, because this is one of the greatest games ever made.
Please take my money.
We would have thrown money at them. I mean, I don't just mean a little bit. We would have all thrown money at them, and everyone, and there would have been no debate. Now, I know I'm being hard, and I know I'm being harsh, but at the end of the day, it is lazy, and it's a shame that it's a waste of opportunity. But having said that, do not miss it.
Mass Effect.
Do not miss it.
It's still Mass Effect. It's still a fantastic game. Play it.
Okay.
Sorry,
I've got to
get that off my chest.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see what they do with new Mass Effect, and maybe that will make it all better. We'll see. I'm going to move on to the next topic of conversation as we move into the news.
This is the news. This is the news. News.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. I was
Good
a
for
little
you,
concerned you weren't going to drop that one in there. So, the first topic of conversation I would like to discuss. So, Xbox have said that they are doing a new program through the Xbox Insider program. So, that's where you can go on, download the Insider app, register for it, and you get updates before they're released to the general public. And you can get right in on the beta ring and the alpha ring for all the updates and new shiny things they kind of want to test and make sure they work before sending out to the general masses. Thank you, Alan. So they are basically launching a way for you to purchase a Series X and a Series S directly through your existing Xbox
Before
One.
anybody says anything, I just want to do this. That's all I'm going to do. Thank you. Please continue.
Good stuff. So what's interesting is when we first talked about the issue with all the scalpers, I said there should be a way where they do it through like your gamer tag or whatever to register it to make sure the person who's buying it is the person playing it. And that's basically what they've done. They've said on your Xbox with your gamer tag through the Insider program, you can register. Don't get me wrong, they will randomly select you from all the people that register. And you'll get given a choice as to whether you want a Series X or a Series S, and you can buy it through the Xbox. And that's their plan, basically, to prevent bots and scalpers from getting hold of it. And I think, much as you've clapped your hands there, Alan, I think that is a great start. That is a great start to get around this, because we know that you can't buy Xboxes, you can't buy PlayStations, so this could be a really good thing.
I was looking at it, I thought what was really cool as well is like it's not just on your Xbox, it only works on the Xbox One. So you can't do it from the Xbox Series X or S. If you try and do it from that, it just won't let you do it. So they're not going to allow people who've already got one to try and jump in and grab another one. And this is a limited trial, isn't it? Just trialing it at the minute.
Yeah, just in the US at the moment.
Yeah, I think the principle's great. It's a shame that we have to get to this, but that's just the way it is, sadly. But again, I'm going to just put good on Microsoft doing this. And on the other side is stop buying from scalpers. If you stop buying from them, they'll stop scalping them. Just don't.
I did see a press release from Phil Spencer who said we're doing this directly as a result of what Phil Thompson said. So that was a direct result.
I love it. Yeah, thank you, Alan.
But
I want to blow my own trumpet, but
I saw his name and I went, that guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. The Phils, they stick together, don't they? But I was going to say there is a downside to it, and that is obviously on the side of the retailers. When you have to buy direct from the actual company, from Microsoft, then that there's somebody who's missing out, and they provide jobs and other things. And if this is a model that is the way to avoid scalpers from profiting off of it, then it's a bit of a sad thing, because at the same time, because that is going to have a knock-on effect on the retail industry and jobs and things like that. And I think, as Chris said, it's a bit of a shame, because ultimately this should fall to the retailers to be resolving this, not the manufacturers or the creators. And the retailers aren't doing enough, so Microsoft have had to resort to doing this, which all credit to them, but it isn't all sunshine and rainbows, because it does have a knock-on effect. And ultimately the people who are at fault are the people who are spending ridiculous amounts of money buying them from scalpers, as Chris said. Idiots, and you're making it worse for everybody else. And it's inherently incredibly selfish. So it's just a shame, but you can't make people change the way they are.
I was going to say, the thing is, like what you were saying, I think it pushes people, it might push retail's buttons to do more about it, sure. But I mean, Microsoft are a retailer as well. Don't forget that. Microsoft do have retail and they do that. So, and this is a very limited, let's be very clear on this, is a very limited trial. And given how Microsoft have invested quite heavily into retail in recent years, especially for Xbox, I would imagine what they'll try and do if this is successful is trying to find a way to link it to retail, so they can push people back into retail, but like do pre-orders and reserves, which we're going to send the stock to this retailer, you buy it from this retailer, that kind of stuff will happen. So fingers crossed, but it's a big thing. And like you said, Alan, retailers should be doing more. And like we said at other times, stop buying from scalpers, because if people can't make money scalping, they will stop scalping. It's a very big picture thing. We don't want to go too much on scalpers.
I'm going to take the opposite opinion here on your part about buying scalpers. I want you to just imagine for a moment, though, that you're a dad, much easier for Alan than me and Chris, and it's your son's birthday coming up in 2 weeks, and the only thing he wants is an Xbox Series S, and you cannot buy it anywhere for love nor money, and that
he doesn't get an Xbox Series S, and he learns a lesson about life.
But you can buy it, but it's going to cost you £100 more. Would you pay that £100 for your child to be happy on their birthday?
I wouldn't.
Yes.
I'm a bastard.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah,
Alan Word, you don't have
but
kids.
You don't have
and that's
children,
why I
Chris.
say-
You don't have to
Yeah.
put up with their disappointment. When you've got a child that's disappointed because you said you'd get them something and you don't, there's nothing worse in the world, mate. And I get that, man.
But
more.
like, I've been that kid who's been
parent.
disappointed as well. I've been that kid who's been disappointed, and the reality is, like, my parents did a good job of managing my. I'm not saying anyone's a bad parent, but equally, it's a life lesson. You can't always have what you want, and just because but equally, you say, "Oh, yeah, would you spend that extra £100?" This means you're forcing people to spend money they might not have to make their child happy. And don't get me wrong, you should make your child happy, but you equally have to draw the line somewhere and go, you don't do that. And the only way to do that is to not get involved in it. It's like, it's a pretty. I get it that you wouldn't want to let your kid down, but who's to say there'll be some from scalpers? Yeah, there's a console.
Round up all the scalpers, put them in a field, bomb the bastards.
That is a very dark opinion now, Alan. I think on that point, maybe we'll circle on to the next bit of news. As I'm concerned, this could get a lot darker and maybe some kind of horrible threats might get made. I can see Alan's cogs working right now. With that in mind, Chris, could you take us on to the next bit of news before it gets really dark and scary?
I've been somewhat rattled by the burn them all down. So essentially, we have some more crossplay news, but not this time to do with Sony. This time it's to do with Gears of War, and they are disabling the option to disable crossplay. So automatically enabled crossplay now, and the reason being is that they're saying that essentially 40% of their player base disables crossplay by sort of choice, and that is causing problems with queue times. Yeah, it's causing problems with queue times with both PC and console users for matchmaking. So they are disabling that so that they don't have so much problems. And I can see this like going down like a lead balloon with a lot of people, especially console gamers. Their exact response was, well, now we've got, well, no, that wasn't their exact response, but their reasoning was, now we have 120 FPS on Series X and mouse and keyboard support on Series X. They're essentially the same game on PC as they are on console, and so you'll be fine. And I think that's technically very true, but I wonder how big a percentage of the community are running on Series X and Series S, or in fact running on Xbox One, or so I guess you've got 120 frames per second and mouse and keyboard support, just like this guy over here. No, you haven't. You've got 60 frames per second in much lower resolution, and you have got mouse and keyboard support. But do you have a mouse and keyboard? So I do see this as being a very controversial move. It's a sad time where they've had to do this because of the fact that the player base has shrunk this much. But then let's be fair, and the doomsayers be like, oh my god, this means Gears is failing. It's quite an old game now. There's been a lot of new games released since then. The hardcore Gears community is still playing it strong, but it's bound to happen. I think it's going to upset a lot of the community. We'll have to see what happens.
My big concern, I'm going to jump in early with this one, is that whenever you come across people playing on PC, there's too many of the cheating fills out there. There's loads of them, and they install mods. There is a whole business model around programmers making like they call them trainers, don't they? Where it's basically a piece of code, you run it in the background, and it modifies the game file programming in real time to give you unlimited health, or you can fly, or your gun fires grenades instead of bullets, or you're just lagging and jumping around from lag switching so that people then can't shoot you, and then eventually you stop and shoot them in the back. And there's so many things like that going on in the background on PC gaming that is a massive issue. And I am one of those people who turns off crossplay in 90% of my games, because...
You say one of those people? Wow. The split is 60-40, and they're saying they're going to turn it off because only 40%? I mean, that's just mental maths. If they were saying, it's less than 10%, I'd be sitting there going, oh, well, fair enough, 10%. Yeah, I suppose, okay. But 60-40? Are you having a giraffe? 40% of their player base wants to turn it off, and they're saying no, sorry, no. We're going to enable crossplay because it suits our PC master race clients better than you console boys.
Well,
unbelievable.
We don't know what percentage of it people are playing on console if it's switched off.
No, we don't. But still, 40% of people.
It's a lot of people.
Have the ability. That's a ridiculously high number for them to basically say, no, sorry, we're not interested in your opinion. We don't want to. We're not going to listen to you. We're going to do what we think's best.
They kind of got to. Is the sad thing about it, because like the queue times are getting unmanageable. But by the same token, it's like, I mean, come on,
find a better solution.
Yeah, well, the better solution is like it's tough because I think Gears is a niche game anyway outside of the campaign. Like I play Gears for the campaign. I used to enjoy the multiplayer, but I'll be honest with you, it got full of like all multiplayer of any long franchise. The multiplayer gets full of ninja good people. And so if you're super filthy casual like me, you walk in and go, I'm just going to play some Gears multiplayer. I've just been blatted across the map for the last 20 minutes. I'm not going to play any Gears multiplayer because I suck. Right?
Yeah, your only
I don't
option
expect
is
to win, but when you get beaten down continuously and you just can't get any kills, it's not fun anymore. I'd had that with Team Fortress 2 after I tried to go back into that, and there was only the highest elite players still left in about 2 lobbies. I thought this used to be fun, right? Went in, no.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I used to be good at Gears multiplayer. Like when Gears 1 dropped, I played the arse out of Gears multiplayer, and I was actually really good at it. And then I stopped playing Gears multiplayer intense because Horde came along in 2, and I really got into Horde. We played loads of Horde, and when I went back to multiplayer, I was like, oh, I suck so much. Like, and it made the game. But that is the difficulty these games face, right? It's once you get that hardcore base in, you know, keeping casuals engaged is difficult because they're going to get slapped about really hard. And it's how much do they want in to be willing to sacrifice. They're getting slapped around a bit. Now we're old and cynical, right? So we're probably all sitting there going, I ain't got time to waste getting good at that game when I can go play this other game I want to play. But there are plenty of people who will sort of dig in and get the point across. But yeah, also just on that quick thing, one last thing about crossplay is, well, Bungie did a thing where they accidentally turned on crossplay for Destiny 2 a little early. I mean, accidentally, of course. You know,
just like
whatever you do, guys, whatever you do, don't press that red switch. Don't press.
Isn't this the second time that they've done it? It was Fortnite did it first time, wasn't it? Fortnite were like, PlayStation crossplay, go. I mean, oh no, if we turn that on, we're sorry.
Yeah. And Rocket League as well, I think, did it as well. Yeah, Rocket League turned it on, and they were like, "Oh no!" Rocket League got away with it for a couple of weeks, I think, before they turned it off.
They accidentally turned it on. Yeah, right. Yeah, we accidentally didn't notice for 2 weeks that we turned it on. Yeah, whatever.
It boils straight back to that thing where Sony charged Epic for their crossplay, and they just wanted to prove that it can be done. They're just being held back.
I think we do that. It was probably more a case of they were just like proving their point that, you know, there's no reason we can't do this. You're putting in the way, and if we show people it's possible, people will riot, and people did, and then Sony had to react, right? So, but this I think is more a case of Bungie just kind of have accidentally probably flicked the switch a little early in terms of, you know, because it's supposed to come like August time by all accounts. So I think they probably this is probably a genuine accident where they put it on too early and then gone, whoops, like withdrawn it and. Yeah,
or it could just be a play test. They actually just wanted to stress test servers, and
I would have thought they said they were doing a quick, you know, beta of it or whatever, just to make people aware. But who knows? It's a good. It gets people talking about Destiny, right? And that's what they do.
You want to know it works? Just flick the switch and let the carnage happen for a little bit, and then you flick it back off again. Yeah, it's a great point. Okay, so our next item of news is Alan, and this story may not be quite as new as I thought it was, but could you walk us through the latest possibly Stadia news?
Yeah, the latest news from February is that
I think that might be just an old article I sent you there, Alan. But
yeah, we're talking about Stadia again, but it's basically, I mean, this is pretty soon after we talked about the fact that they were closing down their studio, their own developer, and only going for third party. But they also announced in February that there were going to be 100+ games coming to the Stadia platform in 2021. There weren't many specifics. I mean, they announced about 9 games at the time, with 6 of which had dates, all of which I believe are out now, such as Shantae, Risky's Revenge, which apparently is a A
2D side
remastered
scroller.
Nintendo, and the fourth one as well, Shantae Half Genie Hero Director's Cut. Also FIFA 2021 apparently in March, and we also had Judgment in April apparently, which is Sega's Yakuza series spin-off. So they're expanding their library every single month by the look of it. And I don't think Stadia's dead. I mean, we all kind of said, "Oh, this is the death knell" when we were talking about, the studio. They still seem to be getting an awful lot of content, and it's coming out fairly regularly every single month, coming to the platform. I don't know what the player base is still like, or whether that's still solid. I don't think it probably is, but they certainly seem to be still committed, and they don't seem to be taking a step back as far as their release schedule and their interest. They're talking about 400 plus games being tracked over the next few years, and 100 of those apparently are going to be this year, but we're already in middle of May, and only 7 or 8 of those have come out.
Yeah,
so
they're not looking on target, are they, with that one?
They're not looking like they're going to hit that 100 target, but maybe they are, because December can be a very busy month, and you just don't know. But they do seem fairly regular. I don't think it's a done deal just yet. They still seem to be trying to get good content on their platform,
and they're still going to make it themselves.
don't want to spend the time and money making it themselves. They get somebody else to do that for them.
But don't you think that's worrying? Like that whole thing, like it's like we want good content, we just can't be bothered to put it on there ourselves. It's like it doesn't sound good. And I mean, like talking about the player base, it's not a official figure, but just as we're recording this, I thought while we're doing this, I pull up the subreddit for Stadia, and there are 107,000 and change subscribers to the subreddit, and currently online there are 874. Now, to give you an idea, that's a far worse state than the Anthem subreddit currently is. So, I mean, it's not great. I mean, I don't know. It's so easy to kick Stadia, isn't it? It's just like. At least stuff is still coming out for the people who've invested, but it's so easy to just take a punt at Stadia because, something. There's still some Stadia news. This is the thing. It made me laugh when their big announcement a month ago was, we put a search bar in the store. It's like, you're Google. How did you not have a search bar in your store? That's your thing.
Yeah, that's how you make your money, is through searching.
It's like, it's just like,
So, but I don't think it's perspired just yet, and I do feel like with that announcement, it will be 2 or 3 months ago. It does seem like they still seem invested in it. I do think developing your own games and having a platform are maybe two different things. Although these days it is hard to differentiate between them. What with both Microsoft and Sony both definitely having that kind of approach, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the only approach. And if you've got a platform such as Stadia, developing your own games may not make sense. I don't know what Google's decision was made, but it certainly seems like they're giving the impression that they are still committed to Stadia and that they still want they want to keep pushing it and saying, no, there's going to be lots of content. There's going to be lots of games. Although I have to say, out of the list of games, I'm not exactly going, get me a Stadia now, because there's not a single one of those that makes me want one. So personally.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, we won't kick Stadia anymore because we can make a sport of that if we tried hard enough. So let's not.
Drinking game, I think it should be a drinking game.
That's maybe. When we're all together, we'll try that, the Stadia drinking game. Right, Chris, you have some exciting news on Fable. Well, and I'm very excited to hear it.
Exciting's not super the word for it. It's interesting, is what it is. It's very interesting.
I'm going to cue a video that will add some interest to that. Please tell us
basically, this video you're seeing ties directly to Fable in a very direct way. So what you're seeing is all made within the Forza world engine, and they've decided to use that engine to make Fable. By the looks of things, this is all based on a job listing that's come up on a website. If it's not to do that, it'd be flipping amazing. It's a bit of a thing. Basically, they're looking for a job for someone to help retool the Forza engine for an RPG, essentially modern RPG. So, I mean, it's the Forza engine. We all know how pretty it looks. I mean,
is this the new Forza engine or
this is the new
Forza
one?
8 engine? Yeah.
So they're using
that would be some extremely pretty graphics.
Yeah,
then
it could be like a stunningly good looking game. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But I think we're probably talking about development costs and making your own games. And as much as we talk about Microsoft having unlimited money, they're also not stupid to just throw money at the wall. They're like, hey, let's not just develop a new engine for Fable. Let's use existing assets. So it looks like they're leveraging the Forza engine, and they're going to put more use case in it. And if they can make it work for an RPG, that's just another powerful engine they've got to do other things with, right? So I think it's a smart move.
I guess it's a great way for Microsoft to get their own kind of game engine, and then they don't have to worry about royalties and things like that for using Unreal or Frostbite.
Yeah, I mean,
they decide they want to use.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, I would say that the big point is like all in-house, all taking care of yourself. You don't have to do anything but make your engine. You give it to everyone. Let's just not have a repeat of what happened with Frostbite, essentially. Yeah, because we don't want that. I think we're done with the black screen, by the way, Phil.
Oh, I do apologise. That's my amateurish.
We'll let you on.
He's a noob, viewers. He's
first-time driver.
First-time driver. Doing it up until this point. First time for Phil, so he's going to make the occasional mistake.
Yeah, and I think I think it's good.
Thanks, boys.
We'll see what happens, but interesting.
Cool. Now, the last point I want to discuss on the news, which is a very quick point, is that Xbox has teased that they have a new IP that's going to blow our minds.
Ooh.
So, I basically asked you guys to take a punt as to what you think or what you would like it to be. So go on, Alan. Lead the way. What do you think?
I thought long and hard about this. I was cooking a barbecue this afternoon for me and the wife. And as I was cooking my very nice chorizo sausages, which is a rare treat after my health scare, it's a very rare treat. So I was having my chorizo sausage, and I thought, what game would I like? And then I thought, you know what would make beach volleyball better? And I thought beach volleyball strippers edition.
Dead or Alive did that, mate.
Yeah, they did actually. I actually thought you were going to say
edition, so you can stand by the side, you can throw money at them while they're playing.
I thought you were going to say Sausage Party the game, and I'm a little glad we didn't go down that route, actually.
No, I tell you what I'd love to see. There was a game, right, many, many years ago, before we even had graphics, and I played it on the ZX Spectrum, and it was basically The Hobbit. Yeah,
okay.
And it was The Hobbit, but it was a text adventure. I would love a game that was Lord of the Rings. The game. Not Shadow of War or Mordor.
A Gollum game coming at some point. Or did they come out?
But it's not the Lord of the Rings. I want to play as Frodo Baggins, playing through the Lord of the Rings, trying to get the ring there, trying to go through sections, trying to do that stuff. I'd love to play that with the new fancy graphics.
That could be cool. Very cool.
Slightly less so than Beach Volleyball Strippers Edition.
Noted. Okay, so we've got Beach Volleyball Strippers Edition. Chris, what are you going for?
Well, I had two thoughts, and one of them is they're going to make The Last of Us. Because apparently
they're just going to rename it to like The First of Us or something.
Yeah, well, maybe there's
zombies.
Maybe
the Gad of War.
Maybe they'll just call it. There's a few of us. I don't know. Not many of us leftish. And then I also thought, what if Microsoft are going to really push the Microsoft, gaming studios into like Xbox? I was like, what could they do? And what I think we'll see is Halo Clippy Edition. So it'll just be Clippy in the Master Chief's armor, and it'll just pop up and go, "I see you're trying to beat the Covenant. Can I help?" And that'll be the game we get. I think. Yeah. No, honestly, I haven't got
a mini clipper as the sergeant. I know what the lady's like.
Oh mate, that's a mod for Halo on PC. Someone's got to replace Cortana with Clippy. So,
brilliant.
But honestly, I don't know. I think if I'm being completely serious, it's going to be some kind of action RPG cinematic type thing. But who knows? We've been surprised. I just don't care what it is really. I just want it to be good. That's all I care about.
I thought they kind of shot this down, I think, a little bit. But I was thinking it's going to be like a Scalebound 2.0, and they'll just call it something different. So it's
they said Scalebound's just not happening, didn't they?
They said that Scalebound as it is can. They're never going to do it, but that doesn't mean they can't reuse the assets and things like that.
I mean, I've got to wonder how bad that must have played, because that looked really cool.
That
must have played like arse. You know,
and that makes me think maybe they can reuse a few assets. The Scalebound name is dead. You know, that bridge is burnt, so they'll just call it something else.
Such a shame.
Crimson
cool.
Dragon 3 or something like that, and they'll just do it from there. That game kind of worked, didn't it? That was an Xbox One launch title, I think, which they gave away free. So yeah, thank you for that. So how are we doing for time? We are not too bad. So we did have a little kind of discussion bit down about new machine learning. So I've got a little video I'm just going to add into the stream here. So there's basically a team that they've spent a considerable amount of time using AI upscaling and AI learning basically to revamp GTA to make it look like real life. And other than the horrendous driving that you've just seen from that Audi there, which is probably realistic in New York, actually, you can see it takes GTA as... Sorry, my bad. It takes GTA as a video game and it makes it look some kind of almost like dash cam footage, doesn't it? It looks like, you're watching the police chasing somebody who's just stolen a Skoda Octavia and they've made a getaway with a brown bottle of liquor and some money out of one of the Premier Inns around the corner or something like that, or a Londis maybe.
Premier Inns in New York, I love it.
Yeah. Sorry, a Londis corner shop, that's the UK.
LA, for goodness sake, people.
I was just harking back to Phil's New York comment, because it's like, it's West New York, where they're very, very short skyscrapers is all I'm going to say.
They're out in the hills, yeah.
That was GTA 4 that was in New York.
Yes.
Anyway, I just thought this was a really interesting topic because we talked about Mass Effect and its remaster, and we hammered on that quite a bit. So I don't want to revisit that, but I'm just saying.
That's it right there. That's your answer. Like, so the biggest thing, the biggest thing we're doing this is like, what it's got its place, and I think you can use it to do certain things. But one of the biggest things when you go back to an old game, and it's rare that unless a game is revolutionary. So I'm going to use Halo as an example for this. So Combat Evolved, when they remastered Combat Evolved, and I've played Halo Combat Evolved, the remaster. The thing that I said to someone at the time, I said, it doesn't play as good as a modern shooter, but it's amazing how close this is to a modern shooter, and now it just looks better too. I said, and that's because when Combat Evolved launched, it was so far ahead of the curve where everyone was trying to catch up for Halo on console shooting for the next 10, 15 years, right? People just couldn't keep up with it. And only if you have a game where the controls and the systems are that good can you really get away with just giving it a coat of paint. Mass Effect is a prime example. I love Mass Effect. It's in my bones. But we've said it earlier, that there's no denying the fact that it's just a lazy cash grab in a lot of ways. They haven't done enough to make it a more enhanced edition. It's a shame. And if they do it with other games, it will just be the same sort of thing. There'll be the nostalgia thing, and it'll be nice to go back and play a better looking version of certain games. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the best things about Mass Effect Legendary is that even though it still looks a little janky at places, it does look a hell of a lot nicer. And you don't notice that until you get back to backs. But I just think if you don't do the proper upcycle and bring systems and gameplay into line with what we're used to, it's going to feel tough to get in that game. It's the same. It's exactly what's happening with Mass Effect right now. I can guarantee you a lot of new players are going to buy Mass Effect Legendary and going to get stuck on Mass Effect 1 because the gameplay systems are so janky and old. And they'll be like, this feels really broken. And that's the problem. I think it's great. I think it's amazing, by the way, that technology moving forward in new games as well. Because let's face it isn't just going to happen in old games. They're going to use that machine learning for new stuff. And that was going to be my kind of thought point. Is actually there's two thought points. Like, one, that'd be a really cool system for them to implement along things like the FPS boost and the auto HDR. Like, if that was something really cool, they could train it within specific games. So like, what's great about that one for GTA is they took real life stills from LA, and then they basically use those to teach the AI what it should look like, and that's how
actually the stills weren't from LA. They were from a town in Germany, But
oh yes, of course they were, weren't they? Yes.
My takeaway from this was that obviously when a game is being developed, the amount of time and effort it takes to produce that game is monumental, especially when you look at something like Red Dead Redemption 2 with the amount of assets, the amount of textures, everything from animations to everything. It's a massive undertaking for a studio. And one of the things that we had change in the last couple of decades was environmental procedural generation. So you had games like Skyrim where every single mountain and every single hill had to be created by hand by an artist. Every cave, every nuance, every tree, every bit of, and for some extent that is still the case, especially for very specific areas. But for vast areas of like open maps these days, they actually have computer programs that procedurally generate that landscape. And for me, looking at those videos made me think of that as a way, because if remember the Ninja Theory video we watched recently, I can't remember the name of the program or the game
room one, wasn't it? The room they were doing there.
Yes.
And basically they were talking about the fact is they aren't trying to create like a texture for this wall. They're trying to make the program understand that this is what something is and this is what the texture should be. And that, to me, I think that video we were just watching is a much what it could create in the future is much larger than just making a game look nice. If you can give it the basic parameters of the map or the area that you want, and then you give it the street and just some pictures, and it automatically populates that instead of you having to put those textures on individually by hand. And the amount of time saved by developers, you can spend more time putting some damn gameplay into the game instead of just trying to make it look good is phenomenal. That means that frees them up to do the important stuff rather than just making it look good. They can actually make the game. So for me, watching that video, I think that we're at the cusp, that this is just the beginning, I think, of something that may be akin to the terrain customer generated programs that we had 10, 20 years ago that have come in and are now commonplace. Maybe in 10, 20 years, when they're making GTA, for example, they'll just tell it what they need. We won't see anything on our end, but instead of having a world created in a specific way, this program will generate it on the fly, freeing it up to do other things and to be able to be more responsive to what you do.
Yeah, I was going to say Microsoft Flight Sim basically does that, didn't they? Use Google Earth satellite images, and then the game uses those basically to generate.
Horizon Zero Dawn that only draws what you can see in your vision, so it doesn't draw anything else. So if you have that, say in a GTA, because I don't understand all the bits about the
they call
programming. I'm no programmer. Exactly, and I would assume that you would only draw the things that were in front of you anyway. But apparently, most games don't. They draw an area, and you're put into that area, whereas Horizon Zero Dawn only does like this field of view thing, and if you turn it then draws and then deletes what's on the left and etc. So if you add that and then intermix this program, then you're giving it the parameters, but you're generating that terrain or that environment on the fly, and that I think is going to be the big change, and that's a kind of exciting.
Think about how much more sort of engaging and realistic those procedurally generated games are. So like, we got Diablo sort of procedurally generates the dungeons and the maps. You've got games like it's Returnal, the most recent one actually, where the map changes every single time. But what if actually every Returnal map was procedurally generated using those high quality existing assets? That could really give you some fantastic scope in the game. And then just the time saving when you're creating these fantastic new worlds. I mean, how many planets could we visit in a Mass Effect game if it can just generate the biome of the planet for us?
Well, this is something I was going to say. Like, I think this is
different textures.
As Alan said, and as we said, it's like we've all talked about. I think, forget the use case on older games. That'd be great. It's going to be nice, but it isn't the really exciting thing here. The really exciting thing is moving forward. I think we're seeing this with this whole next gen tool set. Like we're talking about, like Alan was saying about how Horizon draws things, and how I watched I think we covered it a couple of weeks ago, how Xbox velocity architecture allows them to pull information at different speeds, and the PS5 SSD being so fast, etc., means they can just pull everything instantly like it's from memory, which opens up a huge space for what developers can do. So we're getting the developers are getting all these new tools they can deal with, which are going to give them ability to call assets faster, to design bigger assets, and then they're getting all these cool machine learning tools like what Ninja Theory are working on, and what these guys have done with it's Intel, isn't it? But one of the things that Intel have done this, and it's like once all this stuff comes together and gets into people who make games hands and they can do stuff with it. Unreal Engine 5. I was watching a video on Unreal Engine 5, and oh my god, the stuff that does is like, like the way it generates like debris and like I was like, that's crazy. Like the level of detail gets in. Again, it all comes from having faster cores and where it can move to and faster memory, etc. So I think, like when we talk about next gen games and people say, we've seen this cool next gen title from Miles Morales, you haven't seen what next gen is going to deliver because the developers don't have the next gen tools yet. And I think in a year's time, 2 years' time, we're going to see some really mad stuff, right? So we saw the Coalition moving to Unreal Engine 5. There's more stuff coming on Unreal Engine 5. That's one set of tools which is going to make games bigger and better and more exciting. And then we're getting all these machine learning tools and Ninja Theory are doing this thing. And yeah, in 5-10 years, like Alan says, it's going to be like mind blowing to see this. But having said
we may not see that on our end. We'll just see fantastic games that are just mind-blowingly good and attractive. But the real difference will be in the workings of it, which will allow the developers to be so much more creative and so much easier for them to create these games.
And also, games are going to become more cost-effective as well. If an AI is generating something that would take a team of people,
well, it might not be more cost-effective per se, but it'll mean that the resources can be allocated back to doing other things, which is great. Developers will be able to spend more time
like testicles in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, or dare I say, bug testing so that people don't get stuck to you in the first mission. Things like that. And so that your headphones don't crash the game at launch and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Not if it's an EA game, they won't. But
sure.
I mean, this is exactly right. But like, having said that, when we talk about the updating old games, one game I think would look mental with all this AI up learning and stuff, if they did it, would be the original Division in New York. That, with all that AI, that would look mental. So yeah, I'd love to see that. But yeah, I think this is a great tool.
That's the other thing I was going to say. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, they're talking about the fact it looks so much more realistic, and all that says to me is, it does look more realistic. But all they've done is they've just they're using different textures from the actual game, and they've just lowered the it looks a bit cooler. So it looks more real. Cool. But obviously, the processing power and the engine is what makes it look better at the end of the day. It's really the technology that's kind of doing it on the fly and kind of changing the textures. That's the clever part. Of course, it's going to have an impact on the graphics being better in the long term, but it's, that's kind of the after effect.
That just made me think, though, just before we move on from this and go to the quiz, just a quick one. I like this thing that we're pushing towards these photorealistic graphics, right? But games kind of don't necessarily lend to photorealistic graphics. You know what I mean?
This is a whole other conversation, Chris.
And it's like, is this a good idea?
If it was real to life. You would not walk around shooting people in the face and chopping them up with a katana.
Exactly.
Games have to be games.
They have to be abstract to a degree, right?
Imagine if you walk around the corner and you're like, I'm going to go and mug that old lady. And you're like, oh my God, it looks like Grandma Joan. What have I done? It's like at that point, your mate turns around and batters her over the head with a brick or something. You'd be like, we're not friends anymore. You've just killed Grandma Joan.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem you could have, right? It could get to that point where it's too real, and also I could also detract from the fun of things. Like talk about like playing something like Ghost Recon. That's super hyper real. As much as I want it realistic, you don't. Ghost Recon would be boring hyper real, and you would die literally all the time.
You want to play Back for Blood if it was hyper real? No. Yeah. I really don't. Resident Evil 8. No, I don't want to play it anyway, but that's not the point.
Alien Isolation, hyper real.
Last thing is hyper real in VR. Oh God.
I'm out.
Right. That's a horrifying thought. And on that note, I think we should move on to the quiz. No theme, Alan?
No, I'm not doing it twice, man. I'm just spoiling it.
You got one, mate.
I got one. You know what? I thought I'd push my luck.
It's more than Craig normally gets.
I believe it was supposed to be, this is the quiz, this is the quiz, this is the quiz, this is the quiz.
It's a poor second, but I'll give it to you. Yeah, it's all right. You're okay. Needs work.
So, gentlemen, dust off, in Chris's case, his Mass Effect hat, his N7 hat. Alan, dust off the brain matter. Oh, it's Mass Effect 2, sorry. SR2. Cerberus, lackey.
Can't even read.
Anyway, let us make a move. So, other than the first question, basically everything else is going to be multiple choice because I thought I'd try and sort of give Alan a chance. I could have actually made the first question multiple choice as well, but I didn't. Yeah, because why not? So, are you ready, gentlemen?
Go for it.
No.
Excellent. So, question 1. The Drell share which other race's homeworld?
Do we need a buzzer, by the way?
Well, the other one's a multiple choice, so I was just going to go to each of you in turn. So let's go with Alan first on this
Let's do that, yeah. Let's do that.
I was just actually looking for some Mass Effect good quotes, but I don't know. Had to be me.
Somebody else might have got it wrong. Yeah.
I'm going to take a quote from the game I'm currently playing, Stranded Deep, which is, that's gross.
Okay.
He's chopping up seagulls and stuff to make meat, and which is, you'd expect that, but after you've chopped up,
is that for your buzzer? Sorry, is that for your buzzer?
150 seagulls.
I think he's just asking you what the answer is.
But
yeah,
you
don't need a buzzer. I'm just going to go to
I've
each
no
of you.
idea. I've got no idea.
Okay, Chris.
It's the Hannah.
It is indeed.
That was. Yeah.
All right. The rest, I promise you, a multiple choice. I should have made that one as well. So,
You should have done, yes.
How many permanent squad mates are only available through paid DLC? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Or is it 5? Now, this is across the trilogy. So, through all 3 games. Go on, Chris. You go first.
Hold on. Permanent squad mates.
How many permanent squad mates are only available through paid DLC? 2, 3, 4, or 5?
I think it's 3.
Alan?
I was going to go for 3.
The answer is 4.
I thought there was a 4th one. I couldn't remember. So there's Kasumi. There's I can't remember his name now. The guy with the scars. Zaid. And there's the guy in the third one who I had his name before I did it in my head, and now I can't remember him. The
Prothean guy.
Prothean guy. Yeah.
Yep.
And who's the one? Who's the other one? Go on.
I'll be honest. I didn't actually write them down because I did this in a bit of a rush. I do apologise.
Okay.
But what I'll
try to
do
think who it
I'll
is.
update.
I'm trying to think who it is. No. It's got to be in 2. It's got to be in 2.
Right. Question 3. What is the name of Miranda Lawson's sister? Is it Henrietta? Is it Eliana? Is it Phaedra? Or is it Oriana? Alan.
So you have to come to me first.
Well, I'm just going in order.
I haven't got a clue, and Chris has, and I'm just going to copy Chris. So I'm going to go for the second one,
Eliana. Chris?
I think it's Oriana.
It is Oriana.
I wasn't. I was like, when you said it, I was a little confused. I was like, oh, Christ. Yeah. Go on.
I wasn't confused. I didn't have a clue.
Yeah, this is a very unfair quiz, Phil. It's like,
sorry, that's why I made it multiple choice. I was hoping that would even it out. Alan had the chance.
If you'd mixed it up, if it had been one question on Mass Effect, one question on Lord of the Rings, might have been a bit more even.
That would have been good.
When there's a Lord of the Rings game out, I'll just do one on that, and then Alan can have the advantage. That's my promise to you, Alan. Question number 4. What planet does Shepard encounter the Vermeyer survivor on in Mass Effect 2? Is it Omega? Is it Feros, Ilium, or Horizon? Chris.
Horizon.
Alan?
Horizon.
It is indeed Horizon. But in theory, Alan will get half of the questions right if he just keeps doing this. Okay. Question number 5. L2 biotic implants can cause insanity and disability, but Caden only suffers from dizziness, migraines, insomnia, or tremors. Alan. Does discuss this earlier.
Insomnia.
Chris?
Headaches. migraines, whatever you call them.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, Al. Next question. Troy Baker voices which character? Is it Steve Cortez? Is it Kai Lang? Or is it Arden Victus? Alan. Oh, wait, no, it's Chris first on this one. Sorry. I apologize. It's Chris first.
I'm going to say Kai Lang. I don't honestly. Fei Lang, sorry. I'm not 100% sure.
Alan?
I'm going to go out on a limb here because I don't know either. So if Chris doesn't know and he's being genuine, then I'm going to go for Arden, the third one.
It was Kai Lang.
That was, I'll be honest, Alan, that was a complete guess, mate. I genuinely didn't know that. Like, I was actually about to say, whatever you do, don't pick the first one. But, like, you know.
Okay, next question. Which of these is not the name of a nightclub found across the trilogy? The choices are Flux, Purgatory, Dark Star, and Inferno. I forgot who's going first.
Dark Star.
Alan's going Dark Star. Chris?
Dark Star.
It's Inferno, which is in Andromeda.
Yes, I was going to... yes, of course it is.
Inferno's in Andromeda. Okay, now this one is going to be a proper, like, right-winger here, but I thought I'd put it in anyway. So, Urs, the friendly Varan, can be fed by Shepherd on which planet? Is it Feros, Tachanka, Sakesh, or Novaria? Go on, Chris.
Tachanka.
Alan?
I was thinking Feros, but I think Chris might be right. I'm gonna go with Tachanka.
Yeah, that is the correct answer.
Yeah.
I'm glad you put a lot of thought into that one, Alan. Okay. Next question. Which of these squad mates is not a romance option for both a male and female shepherd? Is it Diana Allers, Kelly Chambers, Caden Alenko, or Ashley Williams? Chris's favourite person in the whole world in the series.
Do the question again. Do the question again, mate.
Which of these squad mates is not a romance option for both male and female shepherd? And it's Diana Allers, Kelly Chambers, Caden Alenko, or Ashley Williams.
I am going to go for Ashley Williams.
Chris?
I'm also going to go with Ashley Williams.
That would be the correct choice.
Nailed
it, Alan.
Faces.
Nailed it. Okay.
Just remember, middle American God Squad, mate. That's what she is. So there's no way she's gonna.
No way she's going girl on girl, is she? No,
yeah, exactly.
No.
And that's why we're going.
That's Satan's work.
The Protheans are deities to the Hanar. What is their religious name? What the Hanar call?
Oh, it's me first,
Protheans.
Isn't it?
It is, yes.
Whatever options in Kindlers. There you go.
Yep, Alan. I assume you're just going to go the same as Chris, are you?
Well, I mean, I'd like to hear the options.
Options were
please,
collectors, the enkindlers, the old gods, and the in-spirits.
Oh yeah, he's right. Of course, it's in Kindlers. Yeah.
Of course, it is.
I'll just tick the point off on that.
I mean, Alan knew that. He didn't need me saying it. Alan knew that 100%.
By Mass Effect 3, which rank has Ashley Williams been promoted to prior to becoming a Spectre?
So I'd just like to point out that before you did this quiz, we'd already had the discussion that I'd only ever played the first Mass Effect and the second one halfway through. So
you're just going to have to take a punt on.
Great on the inclusion of Mass Effect 3 there, Phil. Thanks for that, bud.
Well, the choices are Commander, Major, Staff Lieutenant, or Captain. So you're just.
This would have been great. This would have been great if Craig was on the quiz, by the way. Me and him could have had a real duel at this, but this is just unfair.
I'm just unwanted.
A little bit
when I say who's answering first? Is it me or?
I believe it's you first again this time.
Okay, could you give me the choices again, please?
Commander, Major, Staff Lieutenant, or Captain?
Oh, it's definitely Major.
Chris?
I think it's Major.
It's Commander.
Ah.
Well, would you like to check your references? Because I think that's wrong. I think it was Major. I played Mass Effect 3 no times at all. and I've never read anything about it. And I'm
Shepard
sure it was major.
Commander Shepard before he got promoted to a
he was. But you asked me a question about Ashley Williams in Mass Effect 3. What do you think the chances of me ever having seen Ashley Williams in Mass Effect 3 are?
In fairness, it's the same for Caden.
I know. I'm messing.
Anyway, the last question.
I just want to get another dig in at Ashley because fuck Ashley. Pardon my French.
You did a Phil.
I did a Phil. That's how much I dislike that character.
All right, the final question. What is the name of the famous Batarian attack on a human colony? Was it the First Contact War? Was it the Thesca raids? Was it the Skillian Blitz? Or was it the Morning War? I think Chris is up first on this one.
I think it's the Skillian Blitz.
Al? He's dead. Or he's
It was clearly the Skillian Blitz.
It was indeed the Skillian Blitz. Well, I'd like to say this was a close run quiz, and that clearly all of my hard work had paid off. But it was a 9-5 victory for Chris there.
I'm not even proud of that victory at all. I just think it's
and 5 of those questions. I got one of those 5 right.
You did.
I did. Ashley Williams one, just to rub that in your face. But I think this is probably what they call karma after that absolute train wreck of an awards quiz that I did on the week when it was Phil and Craig. I thought at one point Craig was actually going to just leave. So I think
I thought he was going to cry, if I'm honest with you.
But as much as it was a train wreck, Alan, it wasn't Hangman.
Yeah, brutal, guys, brutal. On that note, should we wrap up?
Why not?
I've got nothing else to say. Chris won. They've mocked me repeatedly. It's been a wonderful, but thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you all again next week. It's a bye from Alan.
Get to the chopper.
It's a bye from Chris.
I should go.
And it's a bye from me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.